we're deporting children, children with cancer, children in general with no due process. Here we are again. Let's break that down. Hi, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and this is The Breakdown. If you enjoy the content on this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and tell a friend. So in more treachery and horrificness coming out of this administration, we now have two families, and among them 3 U.S. citizens, let's be clear, U.S. citizens aged 2, 4, and 7 being deported in a really ugly cloud of circumstances. So these children were deported with their moms by New Orleans ICE last Friday. One of the children was undergoing cancer treatment and one of the moms was pregnant. So both of these families had lived in the country for years. They had ties to their communities, and they, again, were not charged with any crime. They were just coming in for their regular appointment. Now, remember, when somebody is released into the country pending their citizenship status, whether it is they've claimed asylum or whatever the case may be, they have to come in and regularly report. And when they come in, they're like, hey, I'm still here, I'm working, whatever the case may be. And that's usually the end of it. Well, this time, ICE was waiting for them and snatched them up and decided to deport them. So here's what's troubling about this. All of these kids were U.S. citizens. Now remember, birthright citizenship still exists in this country. It cannot be waived away by an executive order. This is something that's part of the Constitution. So you need a constitutional amendment to get rid of birthright citizenship. So you can't wish it away. So these kids were all birthright citizens. They were born in the United States. Their parents were not citizens, but they were born on U.S. soil, so they are citizens. In the case of the 2-year-old child, the father was also a U.S. citizen. The father tried to call the mom and be like, listen, our kid is a U.S. citizen. They can't be deported. Let me give you the number of the attorney. The number is click. And the father talked about how all he heard was her crying in the background. She could barely get anything out. Heard the kids crying. He's freaking out. And next thing you know, they're all gone. So this is very insidious because now we're hearing more and more of these stories where ICE is not allowing people to have access to their attorneys, not letting people seek legal counsel to be able to determine whether or not they can stay in the country, to be able to fight deportation or fight the proceedings. Even if you have counsel, in the instance of another one of the families, counsel came with them to the appointment, and next thing you know, they were whisked away and taken 70 miles away from New Orleans and did not allow them to have access to the attorney until next thing you know, they're on the plane. And so one of the children that have been deported has a rare form of metastatic cancer, and they were deported out of the country with no medication whatsoever, no consultation with their treating physicians, despite ICE knowing that this was a problem, despite ICE knowing in advance this child has serious health issues and needs medication to live. And the child was deported with no ensuring continuity of care. And same thing with the pregnant mom. There was no kind of plan or anything in place in terms of how she's going to get prenatal care or any kind of medical care in this whole process and when she's getting deported. So another interesting aspect, this is so bad that this president's own appointed judges are like, nah, I can't abide by this. The judge that was involved in the 2-year-old's deportation hearing was like, wait a minute, hold up. This child has been deported, and he believed that the U.S. and this administration just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful due process. And this was a judge that was appointed by this administration the last time he was president. So this is his own appointee being like, this is not cool. So again, that scary aspect of the fact that they're not getting due process. And I cannot underscore how important due process is. Think of it this way. If you're charged with a crime and you're like, I didn't do this, you want the opportunity to be able to prove or at least make the prosecution prove that you did it. You want to be able to clear your name. That's what due process is. So, and this is the same concept. These folks deserve due process. Now, if after due process, they need to be deported, so be it. It is what it is. But you have to at least give people a hearing and say, okay, were you really a gang member? Yes, no, prove that you had no, connections to it. Or on the flip side, prosecution, show me, or federal government, show me what evidence you have to show that this person is a danger to our community, has no ties to the community, is not really in need of asylum or in fear for their lives back in their home country. There's a reason why we have all of this in place. And again, these aren't people that were hiding under the radar. They were coming in for their appointments. They were reporting and doing what they were supposed to do as per the regulations set forth by ICE. Let's be clear, they're complying with ICE regulations, and their thank you for that is being deported. So, and this is on top of a case that also came to light last month where a 10-year-old child with brain cancer was deported from Texas to Mexico with her undocumented parents. Again, we're deporting children with brain cancer. This is an administration that claims to be pro-life. Really? Really? Okay. Well, this disgusting business is sadly going to continue for the time being. So this is why it's so important for all of us to know our rights and to know that at this point, if you are going to an immigration appointment, you better have a backup plan for your kids. You should have a plan in place that is written, that is given to your child's school, that is given to your place of employment, whatever the case may be, friends, relatives, so that if something happens to you, you are able to make sure your child is accounted for and cared for. If your desire is that your child not be deported with you, then you need to put that in writing. Question is, will the administration and the ICE officials heed that? Separate issue, but you at least have to have something in writing. Have the name of your attorney and the phone number of your attorney handy. Again, at least that's some way of letting people know where you are so that the fight for your either return or whatever the case may be can be put in play. But again, it's just the norms here are completely out the window. And I mean, I feel in some ways disingenuous kind of giving it this advice because I don't know if any of this is going to work. These are all things in normal times you would do and would make sense. Now it's like, yeah, have your attorney, but that may not mean anything because they may deny you the ability to call your attorney. As we saw with the 2-year-old, the mom was freaked out. And it is my belief, based on the context of all that's been reported, that these women were under duress. And they were like, listen, we're deporting you and your child. It is what it is. You've got to go. And they didn't allow them the opportunity to be like, no, I want my child to stay with their dad. Because again, you have that choice. If the child is a citizen, they can stay. Again, we're deporting U.S. citizens. I cannot stop emphasizing how scary and problematic that is. So we as a community have to come together to, again, protect our folks who may be undocumented or trying to figure out their citizenship. And again, somebody's going to have to care for these kids if their parents get deported, again, with no due process, no anything. Troubling times, y'all. Troubling times. I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and this was The Breakdown. Don't forget, if you enjoy the content on this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and tell a friend. Because we are the resistance. Take care.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.